What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another week of NFL picks. It's week 12. We're coming down on Thanksgiving next week. We're coming down on December. We know what that means. The season, the games, they start to mean more and more. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. And I would probably say that last week was maybe one of my best weeks ever for picks. Really felt good going into it about a lot of the picks, and a lot of them definitely paid off for me. I went 13-2. The only losses I had were the Falcons Panthers game, and we all know how that went, and the Broncos Chiefs game. So outside of those two, went perfect on the rest of my picks. Overall season record 107, 56, and 1. Looking at the teams on a bye week this week, the weekend before Thanksgiving, we have the Miami Dolphins and the Washington Commanders both coming back from Spain. The Dolphins with a win, Commanders with a loss. The Denver Broncos, the surging Denver Broncos, they're 9-2. They got their signature win against Kansas City, and they are definitely on top of the mountain right now in the AFC West. And the team that's behind them is not the Chiefs, it's the Chargers. They are also on a bye week this week. And, coming off a very tough loss to Jacksonville, they're looking to regroup. And it's kind of been an up and down year for them, but still definitely in the playoff mix. So, heading into this week's picks, starting off with our Thursday night game, the Buffalo Bills and the Houston Texans. And I feel like this is a very, if CJ Stroud was playing, I feel like this could be a different conversation. But with it looking like it's going to be Davis Mills again, and to the Texans' credit, they have been winning without CJ Stroud. But when you also look at the opponents that they have been playing, they had that big comeback on Jacksonville. I know they just, struggled to really beat the Titans. And then you have Josh Allen coming in. It is a short week, but still, you have the Bills coming in. And it feels like Buffalo has been inconsistent this year, but you're seeing the flashes. You saw them Sunday against Tampa Bay. And I think the Bills are going to win this game. And, I think this is a game Buffalo probably does have control for most of it. Maybe you see some flashes from Houston early on, but I'm going to pick the Bills to win. I think they get it done by double digits. So give me the Bills 25-13. I think it's kind of a weird score game, but give me the Bills in this one. Heading into the Sunday window, and this is a very important game for both teams, but especially for the Chiefs. And you don't typically see the Chiefs in late November fighting for their playoff lives, but that's what they're doing here. The Colts, they've been one of the best teams in the league this year. Jonathan Taylor, Daniel Jones, that offense has been electric. That defense has come up and made big plays. But it's in Arrowhead, and in a game that the Chiefs need, you put it in Arrowhead. You got to go with the Chiefs. I think it's a close game. I think it comes down to the wire. Definitely think it's going to be one of the games of the week. But in the end, I think Mahomes having more of that experience, Kansas City's going to get this thing back on track. I still do believe. So I think the Chiefs, they get it done. They get over 500, get back in the thick of the playoff race. They win by a field goal 27-24. Next, the Seahawks and the Titans. Seattle's looking for a bounce back. The Titans have maybe been the worst team all year. They're not doing Cam Ward any favors. I'm going to pick the Seahawks to win this game. I think this is definitely a bounce back spot for Darnold after that 4 interception game. And the Titans, they really don't get much done here. So I'm going to pick them to win 31-15, win by 2 scores. They could honestly definitely be higher, but I'm going to pick the Seahawks. Next, divisional matchup, the Vikings and the Packers in Lambeau. And the thing with the Packers is they've been a very weird team. They, had a big, trade before the year for Micah Parsons, and they've been sticking around, but I don't feel like they're really meeting, the moves that they have made, the money that they have put into this roster. They're not fully reaching their potential. And they've kind of been, a very weird team in a sense. You look at some of the games they've lost, you really scratch your head about it. And, I mean, even when you look at that loss to the Eagles, that was a game that, they were in all the way throughout. They just couldn't get it done in Lambeau. They've lost to the Panthers. They've lost to the Browns. And Minnesota also. It feels like just when you think they are done, they go out and they prove you wrong. And that's kind of been the weird team they've been this year. So I'm actually going to pick the Vikings to win. It's a divisional game, and I feel like that definitely adds in a lot more unpredictability. I think that this is a game that Kevin O'Connell is going to get up to coach for. The Vikings are going to obviously get up for. They always get up to play the Packers. And Green Bay, they've kind of just been teetering. They're winning, but they're teetering. So I'm going to pick the Vikings to win 21-17 over the Packers in Lambeau. Next game, I the Ravens and the Jets. I don't have to explain this. I even think Baltimore will absolutely dominate this game. The next one, I don't really even think I've got to explain this much either. The Giants and the Lions. The Giants do definitely have some energy with them, but at the end of the day, Detroit, they're going to be looking to bounce back after that loss to Philly. So I'm going to go ahead. I think the Lions put up a lot of points here. They get a big win to get back on track before they host the Packers on Thanksgiving. 38-20, they beat the Giants. Next game. This is another big game, another interesting game. The big question is Aaron Rodgers going to play with that injury to, I believe it's his thumb. Is he going to make his return to Soldier Field? And if he does, he's not going to be facing the same Bears team that he was used to in Green Bay. This Bears team is tough, they play hard, and they find ways to win under Ben Johnson. You got to respect that. And they're not being talked about a whole lot, but they're there. And they're leading that NFC North right now. They play a tough brand of football, and especially them at home in Soldier Field, they're creating an identity where they have won a lot at home this year. And if Aaron Rodgers doesn't play, and you even look at Pittsburgh, they've been underwhelming at times. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick the Bears. I think they get another one. I think it's a close game, but I think when it comes down to it, the Bears, they'll be in a much better position to win being at home. I could see it being a game-winning field goal. I think the Bears, they get it done. They win another close one. They go to 8-3 on the year. Next, the Patriots and the Bengals, and Cincinnati at this point is, I think, just looking for anything. The report is Joe Burrow should be back for that Thanksgiving night game versus the Ravens. But the Bengals, I mean, this is going to be a must win if they want any shot for it to be meaningful. The Patriots, however, have been, once again, one of the most consistent teams. They just cannot stop winning. Drake May has won 8 straight games. He is right there in the MVP conversation with Matthew Stafford and Jonathan Taylor. And I think, it's going to be another game. New England, they come out, they take care of business, they get the win, they go to 10-2 on the year. Definitely their best start to a season since Brady was last there. And the Bengals, their rough season without Joe Burrow continues. They fall to 3-8. Heading into the late window, this is going to be quite a snooze fest. The Browns and the Raiders, and oh god, these two teams, they're absolutely terrible. Shador Sanders did make an appearance for the Browns, and he did not do well. It being in Vegas, and also just I think the thing of the Raiders are. I feel like with Pete Carroll, that's a very weird team. They're not good, but they're very weird. So I am going to pick the Raiders to win a close game. I think the Browns are, they've fallen apart at this point. I think the Raiders, they pick up the victory here. Next, the Jaguars and the Cardinals. And Jacksonville truly might be the weirdest team in the league right now. Them and Carolina, I feel like, are the two weirdest teams you have in the league this year. Because it almost, really does feel like with them, They can beat anyone and lose to anyone they want to. They just blew out the Chargers last week at home, and it feels like they should come to Arizona. They should pick up a win here, but the Cardinals, they also play very weird. They play, tough. Jacoby Brissett had 47 completions against the 49ers. I think it's a weird game, and I think the Cardinals actually pull it off. I think it's a upset game. You're gonna have some weird games, and there were some games that were tough to pick this week. This was one of them. I feel like Jacksonville continues that up and down trend this week. I think the Cardinals, they get it done late, maybe a game-winning field goal, and they improve to 4 wins on the year. Next, the Eagles and the Cowboys, and very big game whenever these two teams get together. The Eagles beat them on opening night. And look, I think the Cowboys are in a very weird position also, where their season's not totally done, but you kind of have to have a win here if you want to keep things alive. And the Eagles have beat the Cowboys 3 straight times. That's really not common for them to sweep Dallas in back-to-back years, and I don't think it happens this year. I think the Cowboys are gonna get the win in this one. I kind of went back and forth, but I think Dallas is gonna get the win. I think that offense, they heat up, and especially Dak. If Dak is on fire, Dak can lead them to victory against anyone any week. So I'm gonna pick the Cowboys to win, and I think they get back to 500. Next, this is gonna be an absolute shit show. The Falcons and the Saints. And I really hate having to feel this way going into a Saints game. I do, because the Saints game in years past has meant so much to me personally. But with where the Falcons are at right now, it's just hard for me to put any confidence in them. Michael Penix is out. Drake London's going to be out. The Saints are heading into this game with a little bit of momentum after that win against Carolina. And I'm gonna go ahead and I don't think I've ever done this before, and this actually pains me so much to do. I'm gonna pick the Saints to beat the Falcons. I mean, it hurts me, but this has been a season from hell for the Falcons, and oh my God, I would have never have imagined I would be doing this before the season, but here I am. I'm picking the Saints to win. I hope they don't, but I'm picking the Saints to win. Sunday night football. This is going to be a good game. The Bucks and the Rams. Tampa's trying to get back on track after 2 straight losses, and the Rams. Matthew Stafford's probably the leader in the MVP race right now. I think if it ends today, it goes to Matthew Stafford. It would be his first MVP. He's been having his best season at, I want to say, age 37, and that's just remarkable. And I think this is set up to be a really good high scoring game. This could definitely turn into a shootout. At the end of the day, I think the Rams being in SoFi, Tampa typically has these weird spots, but I think the Rams are on a different level this year. I think they get this done. High scoring game, shootout, but I think the Rams win. They improve to 9 wins on the season. Final game of the week, Monday Night Football. And all of a sudden, this is a game with a lot of meaning for both teams. The 49ers and the Panthers. CMC going up against his former team. More importantly, Carolina is knocking on the door of playoff contention. And I think that's absolutely weird to say, but it's true. And you got to give them credit for it. With that being said, I do think that this is probably going to be another back to reality game for the Panthers having to go out to San Francisco. We saw it with the Falcons earlier in the year. They got a big win, and then they went to San Francisco on primetime, and they kind of got knocked back down to reality. So I'm going to pick the 49ers to win. I think CMC has a pretty big day against his former team. I want to say this is the first time he's going to be facing Carolina since he was traded from there. So I'm going to pick the 49ers to win. But with that being said, appreciate everyone for watching. Remember to like, remember to subscribe, remember to share, and I will see you all in the next one.